We're good to go. Hi guys, sorry about the little technical problem. So you guys might be a little surprised with the FCB cap, but we're not actually going to be catching a weekend game of Barcelona here. This is just a session on media as a brand, and I often tell my team that marketing in business is very much like a football season. It starts sometime in April and ends in March. Each of the launches are like the big games that come in, and you either win some, you lose some, and yeah, so you either win some and you lose some, but at the end of the day, you got to take your pluses and your minuses and see what comes up at the end of the day. So welcome to the session on media as a brand. I'm Sainath, and I head marketing for Colors Marathi and Gujarati. I have been in media now for about 10 years and have worked on brands Sahara One, Sahara Filmi, Zee Marathi, Zee Talkies, Colors Marathi and Gujarati, and I've also had a stint as a research analyst with Allmax Media. So enough said about me. I'll quickly take you all through a video and get the session going. I think while people are still logging in, it might not be a bad idea to see a video while people log in. So just bear with me for a minute and I'll quickly get you on to a video.
Oh, hi. My name is Andy. Robin, nice to meet you. Alright, so the first TV I'm going to show you guys is over here. It's one of our newer models. You're seeing a trailer. It's playing in regular 1080p right now. I'm going to switch it to 4K, which is the new technology. What's the biggest difference that you see?
It enhanced more.
Does it? It almost looks realistic, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have to grab a different remote. So we'll be right back and then we'll do that one, okay?
Sure.
What do you think about the picture quality?
Looks like she's gonna jump out.
She looks like she's gonna jump out?
More definition.
Like she's right there.
Like she's right there?
Yeah.
Why? Touch it. Oh, wow! Oh my god! It's brighter.
Quality, that's... Oh my god!
Alright guys, I hope you saw that video. So that was, did it finish properly? Because I think at my end it was stuck. If you guys want me to play that again, I can. Okay, so basically what that was essentially the way content is being marketed now, and we moved away from the day and age where you just promoted a show and without an experiential angle to it, you simply put in what you felt like and you thought your job was over. Today, marketers have realized that giving a first-hand experience, a first-hand sampling of their content has become very essential, and that is the way the world is moving. So the idea of showing you this presentation right up at the start was to give you a sense of what this session is going to be about. It's going to be a lot about the way content is marketed, the way shows are marketed, because when we are in television, we are in the business of marketing content, and without really giving them an experiential feel today, you're not going to get the results that you need. I will quickly touch upon a few numbers at the start of the presentation to lay into context what happens. Since I work on the regional brand at Viacom, I would be taking you through a case study of a dance show in Marathi, which is called Too Mad. We will extensively cover that from the point of view of the entire marketing mix, the brand positioning, and the works. So I won't take more time, and I'll just take you all through this presentation. So here's a quick glance at the media and entertainment industry, and you look at up to the year 2016. If you take a combination of television, print, and films, it approximately gives you a number of about 82%, with television itself contributing about 47% in terms of the revenue share. Now, what's expected in the year 2020 is that while this percentage combination of TV, print, and films comes down to roughly 7%, that's a 5% drop, the share of television in terms of revenue actually increases by 2% to 49%, whereas your print revenues and your film revenues drop, which in turn is garnered by the digital advertising space, where it goes up from about 6 to 11%. The rest of the pie pretty much stays the same, not much variation there. When we look at TV as a market, and in India today, TV has a penetration of about 64% as of 2016. Now, one of the key reasons for this number going up in the recent years has been digitization, or what we call as DAS. And in the last few years, a lot of you would have experienced and seen a lot of ads which say, get your set-top box if you do not want to lose your cable connection. And this has been implemented in phases and obviously with a lot of extensions, considering how vast a country this is and how difficult it is to put into perspective such a huge change. And any kind of change requires a lot of effort and a lot of response from people. Now, one of the things that's happened with digitization is that your DTH boxes have also gone up. And when we say DTH, we refer to the Videocons, the Dish, the Tata Skies of the world. And that's typically happened for a number of reasons: your product bundling, product innovations, customizations in terms of the packages. And this has led to a sharp increase in DTH, and with the disposable income increasing, there has also been an increase in the HD boxes, which is again a newer phenomenon. Now, when we go back to the previous slide, we spoke about the advertising revenue increasing. Another industry estimate says that at a CAGR of about 10.5%, the advertising industry revenue is about US dollars 9.62 billion, which gives you an idea of how huge this market is. Now, just to give you so you guys can shoot your questions towards the end of the session. If you all have any, you all can make notes and shoot them. You can type them out and send it to me. Okay, so since I represent the regional space, one of the key things that's happened is your regional entertainment is growing, and that's what has led to that is that there are a lot more suppliers who are able to expand. When we say suppliers in the television space, it's typically your vendors from the marketing side, from the programming side. You have larger producers that cater not just to Hindi, but even to the regional space right now. Networks like Star and Z have their regional channels. They have, in terms of a wider bouquet, in terms of movie channels, in terms of news channels, and of course the GEC, which gives them a wider spread in terms of better monetizing options as well. We all know, and some of you might be from the South, that the South Indian TV industry is one of the oldest and the strongest in the country, and the whole the flavor of the regional content there is very different from the rest of the country. Moving ahead, like I mentioned, in terms of marketing strategy, when we spoke about the DTH numbers going up, and I mentioned product bundling. So if you look at some of the things, that every time you go to buy a new television, you typically get a scheme where you get a DTH connection free. Videocon has been a pioneer in that. Dish TV has also customized a lot of its packages, which gives you a lot of additional channels. And with the increased digitization that's coming in, a lot of these companies have been able to increase their revenues. They also offer a lot of advertising opportunities to broadcasters like us. So while we saw that the 82% of television, print and radio came down to about 77 in terms of projections for 2020, TV continues to be a dominant segment in the entertainment industry, and even filmmakers are using this as a widespread reach medium. Just to give you a recent example, if you look at shows like Coffee with Karan, Chala Hava Ye Udya on Zee Marathi, or for that matter, Kangana Ranaut had come on to our show Two Man, which I will be speaking about shortly. Or for that matter, you have your comedy nights with Kapil, or your comedy nights Bachao, or your Big Boss for that matter, where you see Salman as an anchor. So a lot of celebrities today realize that a wider way of reaching the base for movies is through television, which is why you see a lot of film producers, actors who shifted to the television industry, not just in terms of acting, but as a source of income for themselves. And it's a very effective medium to promote their films, events, or the brands they endorse. Typically, there was a time when you could produce anything, and you knew that in a monopolistic market, people would consume what you were really throwing to them. But today, with the plethora of channels, it's not the same. People have a mind of their own. Content preferences are changing. Niche audiences are there, and there are not just GECs, but there are a plethora of channels across different genres that are available to these guys. So the audience is now the ultimate consumer, and pretty much determines what he wants to watch and not watch. So, broadcasters like us have to be on our toes in terms of understanding the pulse of the market and giving the viewer what they really want to watch. Like I said, so we're looking at the regional markets. So typically, we all know the southern markets are flavored in a very different way. The penetration of the Hindi channels is not so much in the south. It's pretty much a one language market. If you take a combination of the four channels, which is the Tamil, Telugu, Kannada and Malayalam, and that works up to roughly 71% of your entire regional share. What that implies is these numbers are so high not because there are more channels there, but only because the people there have preserved the local language and prefer watching the local language channels than Hindi channels. When you look at the other end of the pie, when you have 7% on Bengali, 5% on Marathi, 2% on Oriya, 2% on Bhojpuri, and 13% on others. Now that Gujarati 0.4, I've rounded up the numbers, so don't try and figure out where is the other 0.6 gone, but I just marked Gujarati because there is a percentage there and it's not a 0%. So where we operate, or where the Bengali channel or the Bhojpuri channels operate, it's a dual language market, simply because there are multiples of people who speak not just Marathi but also understand Hindi. And the Hindi channels have a really huge say in a market like Maharashtra. And as we go along in this presentation, you will understand what I mean by what the percentage of people who actually watch Marathi channels as against what when they watch Hindi channels. So that's a little bit of a parody, because in Maharashtra, Sons of Soil is a really huge phenomena. But when it comes to watching television, they watch Hindi as much as they watch Marathi. So let's look at Maharashtra as a market, okay? And this is a key challenge for marketeers like us, because Maharashtra is not a homogeneous market. It's pretty different in terms of regions. And for our working convenience, we break this down into 6 regions. And this is pretty much the administrative regions which the government runs as well. So marked in red, you have the Konkan region, which is geographically, culturally very different from the rest of Maharashtra. The blue region is the Pune region. The purple, Nasik. The orange region being Aurangabad region, which is also known as Marathwada. Your yellow region is the Amravati region, which combined with the green region is known as Vidarbha. Now, every year during the summers, you hear that Marathwada, Vidarbha are suffering from drought, and that will give you an idea that the people here are not as well off as their cousins from the rest of Maharashtra. So you cannot have a one-size-fits-all sort of marketing strategy in these places. It's important to customize your marketing strategy as per the different regions, not just in terms of the way you promote your shows or your brand, but also in terms of content. So increasingly people are bringing in people or the dialect of these cities into the content, which helps resonate the content with that part of the market. There are a huge number of examples of these. For those of you who are Maharashtrians and watch Marathi content, you will be able to realize what I'm saying. Also, if you look at areas like Gadchiroli, Gondia, you would know that these are Naxal areas, Maoist areas. So these are not really conducive areas to go and market. Also, a lot of these areas face a lot of water shortage. So small things like when the water supply comes in affects the viewership of the channel. Electricity is an issue in these markets, again impacting in a very, very huge way the sort of television ratings and viewings that we want. Just a quick look on the Maharashtra market, and you will realize that about 43% of your age group split is between 12 and 29. So that tells you that there's a huge potential in terms of the programming to be skewed towards the younger people. There is, for the first time, a youth channel that's been launched in the Marathi genre, typically done to cater to this sort of a market. If you look at it in terms of the socio-economic classification, as known as NCCS right now, it's a 36% spread there between socio-economic classes A and B, which is quite high again, considering that a large part of Maharashtra and especially Marathwada and Vidarbha is not probably in this category. So it is a real challenge in terms of how you want to reach people and what you want to communicate to them. Again, if you look at the urban-rural skews, so 53% of Maharashtra is rural. That's against the national average of about 70%. So it's quite lower. If you look at the male-female skews, it's about 48 to 52% skew. So we look at the urban versus rural kind of spread. So if you look at Mumbai, and these are IRS numbers, which is in the Indian Readership Survey. Just throwing a few numbers at you guys. The key numbers are right at the top, which is the mother tongue. So if you look at this, just 42% of the sample of the people in Mumbai actually speak Marathi, whereas in the urban markets it's about 67 and in the rural it's about 86. Mumbai incidentally has a weightage of about 23% on the BARC weightage measurement system. So when you consider that 23% of your weightage is given to Mumbai, only 42% of your people actually speak mother tongue. So you can imagine the balance are probably not even watching the Marathi channels. That's a huge concern for us in terms of how do we manage to break Mumbai as a market, because the cost of media in Mumbai is much higher than it is in the rest of Maharashtra. Just basic numbers there. Now, like I said, so the Maharashtra market does not have as many channels as probably the South, but that has changed in the last decade or so. So we started off with 10 channels about 2008, and that's driven largely by news channels there, to 2016 where you have 20, which is a mix of not just news but GECs, movie channels, music channels, and a mix of channels which show music and movies. So that's quite a wide choice for people to select. Some of these channels are free to wear, so the subscriber doesn't have to pay for it. That makes it a lot easier for them to be reaching into the rural areas. So these sort of channels work effectively for us in terms of advertising on them to get to the rural areas, because for paid channels like us, to create a pull for our brand, this is something that is very, very, very important for us. Like I said, why is marketing in Maharashtra a little difficult? And I told you about the Hindi influence. So if you look at this in Mumbai, just 16% of the viewership is for Marathi channels, and out of that, just 11% comes from Marathi GECs. So you can imagine what a huge challenge it is for us. When you look at the urban areas, leaving aside Mumbai, the number goes up marginally to 14, and when you look to the rural areas, it actually comes down from the urban to about 13%. So those are the numbers that we're speaking about, and if you look at viewership numbers per se, it's not even close to 50%. If you look at these numbers for South, they would be excess of 50%. So you have just a 16%, you have a 24%, and you have a 26%. Movie channels sort of increase towards the rural areas from say about 1% in Mumbai to about a 6% in the rural areas. But you look at the GEC percentage, it just goes up by 2% from 11 to 13, which is not really a great number. So what I'm trying to drive home here is, before we get to the case study, that it is not really easy to garner viewership in Maharashtra as a market because of the Hindi channels. So what's the challenge for media as a brand in terms of marketing? Okay, it's not similar to any other category that you may have. A perception of a brand is very heavily linked to the content. Content is the king in television. It can make or break a brand. And the focus of marketing is always to get the viewer onto the show, to build an awareness, to build a reach for the brand, and obviously drive home the communication thought, because the way you pitch the show pretty much determines how much of an interest or inclination to watch is there towards that particular show. We look to build the intention to watch as a terminology. So let's look at a typical marketing mix for a channel. Okay, so if you look at the product, it's typically split into a fiction, a non-fiction, a reality, world television premieres, and your special properties, which are your Sunday awards and other specials that you may have. So basically, I'm sure all of you are aware of marketing mix, but I'll just run through it quickly. So it's basically your product, price, place, and promotion, which is for every category, and every product keeps changing as per the kind of stuff that you're going to market. For us, being in television, the product is the content. Like I said, so I'll quickly tell you what the difference between non-fiction and reality is. Non-fiction is basically anything which is like your dance and singing shows, whereas reality is something like a Big Boss or an emotional atyachar, which is filmed and shown to you guys. When you come to place, it's the distribution. So it's largely through MSOs and LCOs and your DTH platforms. The newer medium being over the top, which is through your mobile and your apps like Hotstar, Woot, and Ditto. When you come to price, so there's a differentiated price depending on whether you're going on a package, it's paid, different for on a cable system, different on a DTH. So that's how the pricing is differentiated. Also the kind of monies that come in through advertising revenues. And when you have your promotion mix, it's typically your ATL and your BTL. Your ATL comprises your print, TV, outdoor, radio. Your BTL is your events and activations, and digital, which is now one of the bigger things. So quickly we look at what exactly is brand management, and when you say create a brand identity, what's it that we really imply when we say create a brand identity? Now, a brand identity is nothing but the physical aspects of the brand. How do you want to enter the consumer's mind? Is it through your logo? Is it through your font? Is it through your colors? Anything that the viewer sees, the physical, tangible aspects of it is your brand identity. What's the launch brand phase? Well, once you created your identity and you finally launch your brand, what typically happens is that's when the consumer experiences the brand, and that's when he actually makes up his mind whether he wants to use this product again or not use it again. Because typically the viewer experience or in the service industry, what we call as the moment of truth, pretty much determines if the person is willing to experience the brand again. So this lays the foundation for the future of the brand. If the consumer experience is bad here, it is likely that he is not going to use the product again. More so, he's likely to spread a negative word of mouth, which is likely to hamper the brand's growth all and all through. So all the millions of money that you spend on your advertising is likely down the drain if the consumer experience is not good at this stage. The growth phase of the brand is something that comes once the brand is launched. It's stabilized. Once your bottom lines are stabilized, because when you launch a product, there is a huge multimedia advertising campaign that happens. There's lakhs of money that are spent on public relations. Eventually, when the brand settles down, there are a good amount of sales. When your bottom lines are stable, you might look at a product variation. You might look at a product extension, a brand extension of that sort. That's when the growth phase for the brand really kicks in. At this stage, you already have a loyal set of viewers or consumers of the brand, and any kind of innovation in the product is largely done with a view to extending the brand. Let me tell you this, there have been very few broadcasters who have been able to successfully launch a second GEC. And I may interchangeably use the word consumer and viewer here. Pardon me for that, because my consumers are pretty much my viewers. So if you guys have got this, I'm just going to move on to brand Colors Marathi, from where it started and to where we are right now. So this brand was acquired from the erstwhile Ramoji Rao, and it was known as the brand ETV Marathi, which has been there for ages. This brand was seen as a fuzzy daddy old brand, something which was personified as my grandfather or grandmother's channel when it was ETV, but it was the #1 channel in Maharashtra at that point in time. 2013 was when the whole Reliance Network 18 Viacom joint venture and all of those things happened. And that's when the brand was bought over and it was rechristened as Colors Marathi with the tagline Saaz Nawa Rang Nawa, which basically means new freshness, new color. And we went in for, as part of our corporate strategy, which is the larger Viacom strategy, we refurbished the brand last year. And if you see we just changed the logo type, changed the petal, and we came up with a new tagline, which was Rang Marathi, Gandh Marathi, which essentially means colors, the colors are Marathi and the fragrance is Marathi. So we wanted to cut through and reach our audiences, be a little closer to them, build a sense of belonging with our viewers. So this brings us to the important point of brand positioning. And if I may just tell you, one of the key things when you're looking to position your brand is to first look at the competition. What are they doing right? Is there a gap in the environment that can be fulfilled? So it's basically looking at a need gap analysis here. And if you look at this in terms of the Marathi space, you pretty much have this as a competition. You have Star Prabha, which is a GC. You have Zee Marathi, the leader brand in this space. You have Zee Yuva, which is a niche youth channel, and you have Zee Talkies, which is a movie channel. Come to the next point, which is the consumer. And if you profile the consumer for any typical GEC or for us, for that matter, we look to target the 30 to 35-year-old female who's typically a housewife, traditional, and a little ritualistic, and that comes out of the kind of market Maharashtra is, which is why we tend to profile our consumer the way we have. So where we look as how we can best fit into this is we're seen as a family entertainer. We try and play on the Marathi lineage. We position ourselves as a brand that is rooted and inclusive to all, because as you saw, there's an urban and a rural split, and ideally we would want to not be seen as a brand which is rural or urban, but all inclusive rather. Which brings us to the line which is Rang Marathi, Gandh Marathi, which evokes a lot of pride in the average Maharashtrian, because like I said, Maharashtrians are really high on the sons of the soil thought, and this is something which is really close to that positioning. So let's quickly look at the brand from what we call a brand prism, which is the model in terms of branding. And if you look at this, there are 6 aspects to it, starting with the physique. So the physique is nothing but the tangibles or the salient aspects which come to mind when you look at a brand. The persona of the brand is the personality of the brand. That is when you try and ask a viewer or you think of the brand as a person, what would be the qualities or the personality of that brand. The cultures are the inspirations or the passions of the brand that it tries to bring out. Whereas if you look at the self-image, of the brand. Sorry, we'll take the relationship of the brand. That's the kind of relationship that the brand establishes with its viewer. And I will take you through each of these separately, but I want to give a fair idea of what each of these stands. The reflection is a stereotypical user, as is reflected when we communicate to, because when we say we are targeting women 30 to 35, that's a larger cut. But when we want to advertise, we want to speak to the viewer, we try and get closer and slice it down to the typical kind of viewer we would want to speak to. And obviously the self-image is the internal image, it's the way the consumer wants to be seen. So now that we've gone through the six prisms, or the six characteristics of the brand prism. So if you look at Colors Marathi as a brand, and you ask me what's the physique of the brand, so it's obviously the name Colors, the petal, which is a standout and a giveaway from any other brand, and the color scheme. So you would notice that every brand within the Viacom 18 cluster has a different color for the petal, and each personifies what the brand means. If you look at what the personality of this brand is, it's a rustic brand. It's seen as one of those brands which is from the rural sides, which is seen coming through the rural areas. It is a brand which strives for betterment. It's always looking to better itself. It's a brand that's trying to please its viewer, but it's a slow learner. When we say slow learner, it's because the brand has come from being ETV to Colors Marathi. It does not have a lineage that, say, some of its competitor brands have, which have been around for 15 years. So this brand is slowly and steadily finding its feet. It's in a positive way because it's trying to just get there. When you talk about the culture, so we say that it's a family-centric brand. It typically represents your middle class, and it looks to leverage your Marathi pride. When we talk about self-image, the brand it tries to project itself as something which is entertaining, which is proud, which is enlightened, and the reflection is a 30 to 35-year-old female who's a devotional, who's a housewife, and who's submissive. And I said relationship is like I said, so we try and establish a relationship which is of a family member. Moving ahead, we look at the changing marketing environment. So just give me a minute. I have a couple of questions I think which I need to respond to. Okay, just hold on. Okay, just going to answer a few of your questions. I see some of you have found me going a little too fast, so I will slow down. I'm sorry about that. Rakesh, I have your questions, so you can keep typing them and I'll answer them as you come back to me. ODT means over the top. I'll just repeat that for your sake. Okay. So I'm going to go slightly ahead now into the changing marketing environment, and this I'm going to largely explain through a case study, which is related to a dance show. Okay, so what used to happen in the past in terms of when you had a dance show that you had to promote, was that you typically took one message across all the mediums of communication, which was called as a 360-degree marketing approach. In today's day and age, it becomes a little necessary to customize your communication as per the medium that you're trying to reach. And that's the huge difference between the traditional and the modern way of marketing. Like I said, so traditional is your typical mediums like radio, print, television. Today, media marketing is a lot beyond that. Like we saw at the start of the session, there was this video of rings, which was a different way of promoting your content. Today, it's more experiential. And like I said, so it was product-led, which was basically if you had a dance show, you just promoted it as a dance show. Today, it's about what is there in that content. Why should you watch X dance show over another dance show? And that's typically where we come down to the now of the environment, which is today we use an integrated marketing. We use a lot more digital, and today it's content led. And I will take you through this through the example on 2MAD. I hope now I'm a little slower for you guys. I'm sorry, there was some issue with my system and I really couldn't see your questions which have popped up. My apologies for that. So I'm just going to start off by playing another video here.
इम्प्रेशन तर सगळेच मारतात राव, पण एक्सप्रेशनचं काय?
एक रिदम पकडून उड्या मारल्या, करामती केल्या, म्हणजे डान्स नाही, म्हणजे डान्स नाही, म्हणजे डान्स नाही.
त्या रिदमवर तुमचा आत्म थिरकायला
वेळ लागलं पाहिजे तुम्हालाही आणि बघणाऱ्याला.
सर मी हँडिकॅप आहे, पण त्याच्यावर जज नका करू मला. माझा डान्स बघा मग मला जज करा.
अचूकतेचा
स्वतःशी स्पर्धा करण्याचा
ऐकू नाही येत,
ऐकू नाही येत,
थोडासा प्रॉब्लेम आहे.
ती जन्मताच ऐकू शकत नाही.
जग जिंकण्याचा आहे का दम?
Okay, so in case you guys didn't understand the language there, that's all right. My idea of showing that video to you guys was to let you guys know what the treatment of the show was, because that's what we're going to speak about for the next 10-15 minutes. So if you understood what the treatment was, it was typically peppy, it was young, it was a dance show that was presented in a very different way. And if you look at it from the Marathi context, Marathi shows generally are not so high on production values and scale. If you looked at this video, you would probably mistake it for a show which would come on any Hindi channel. And that was one of the key things in terms of launching 2MAD. So what was the show called 2MAD? Basically, 2MAD means it was a second season, which is why the 2. MAD was Manje Asal Dancer. In Marathi, it means the real dancer. So just to give you a gist of the show, this show traveled to the innermost parts of Maharashtra to find talent. We wanted to really get raw talent, people who were mad about dancing. So it could be anybody from Nasik to who could do hip hop, to somebody who could do a very folk kind of lavani from Kolhapur. But we wanted to get the best talent in the age group of 18 to 25. And we had a bumper judging panel, and you can see that image there. For those of you who don't know them, the guy in the white jacket is Sanjay Yadav, who is a director and a very popular Marathi movie director. The person in the center is Amruta Khanvilkar, who's an actress and a great dancer herself. She was the winner of Nach Baliye as well. And on the extreme right, you have Umesh Yadav, who's a very famous choreographer. And the show was anchored by Amay Bagh, who's one of the youth icons in the Marathi space. He's seen across a lot of movies and television shows. So let's look at the drawing board in terms of the launch of the show. So obviously this kind of show is slightly different from the core viewer audience that we spoke about, 30 to 35 females. This was more youth. And if you go back to the slides that I showed you earlier, about 43% of Maharashtra is in that base in terms of the younger audience. So we were targeting the youth, male and female, because dance is something which is not gender biased. So we targeted both. The secondary TG, again, coming slightly to the core viewer base of our channel necessarily. So 35 to 40, 30 to 40 in that range. The markets that we identified as a cluster of towns basis, the census population, which we call as 10 to 75 lakh towns. These are the towns which generally give us as a brand maximum viewership. That's where there is potential for great amount of viewership to be drawn from further to what it is currently. So we looked at those markets with an idea of trying to get up our numbers from those markets. How did we position the show? Basis the matrix that we showed you all was Maharashtra's Asal dancer who's full of madness for dance, and we executed the integrated marketing communication model. So if you look at the IMC model that we utilized, and you would probably see that in the slides that come ahead, not all of this was applicable to us as a brand. So a personal selling, sales promotion, or for that matter, your direct marketing didn't really happen. But in terms of the rest, it was pretty much there. And you will see in the slides ahead that BTL and the strong advertising push was something that made this show really successful. Going ahead, so how did we crack the campaign thought for this? And I'm going to show you all a few promos after this, which will sort of help you all understand what this whole thing was about. So the insight was dance is a true passion. The pitch was only the true mad passionate dancer will win, taking a cue from the name. The creative rendition, as you saw in the mashup video, it was young, it was happening, it was peppy, and it was full of life. To quickly take you through some of those videos now. So before I take you to the next video, let me explain this one. So this was a pre-launch promo. It essentially says that there is this character called Jia Gore who's in college. She has flunked her exams, as there are two Jia Gores in her class, and she's under the impression that she's passed, which is why she breaks into an impromptu jig. That's when her friends tell her that it is the other Jia Gore that's passed, while the Jia Gore who's dancing has failed. That doesn't stop her from enjoying because she has a passion for dance, and she says, doesn't matter which Jia is passed, I still want to dance. I'm celebrating her passing the exams. Pretty much brings out the essence that the show is about for those who have passion for dance, don't really care about the fact whether they have passed, not passed. For them, dancing is above anything else. That's simply what this video tries to say. launching level. So essentially, you give the viewer a sneak peek into the show because the promo does that for you. It's the widest reach medium, and it typically lets different people know what is there in the show. That's why we cut multiple promos. With regards to approximate number of frequency on the shows, if it's a key property, you could play them as high as about 30-40 promos per day. Typically, you start with the longer duration promos, which are the Maza promos. When I say duration, in terms of secondage, so it could be about a 40, 50, 60 seconder. And as you come closer to the launch, you play shorter cuts in terms of the creative duration, which helps to build up the frequency of the promo. I hope that answers your query. How many days? Well, that depends. Typically varies anywhere between 4 to 5 weeks. It's also a function of the kind of reach that your channel has. When we say reach, it's a measurement which comes on the software on Bark. So this is totally dependent on what kind of promo reach and conversions you need at launch. It's a little technical, but typically 4 to 5 weeks to put it in a nutshell. These are the off-air creatives. So the promos that you saw, this is how it was carried off-air. So you saw the judges in the promo. The guy to the extreme left is the anchor of the show, whom I said Amaya. And you would see that we've shown the contestants very small here, but doing a few dance moves. One of the reasons why they're not blown up or they're really as huge as the other judges are because these are unknown commodities when the show launches. It's only when the show reaches its culmination that these people achieve the kind of fame that makes them well-known faces. Soumya has a question: is the time slot selected as well to play the promos? Well, the promos are played through the day with a higher frequency during the evening prime time because that's when maximum viewership is present for the channel. With regards to the mix on the promotion of this, so you see that there was a 10-day promotion which happened across different channels. Be it a mix of news channels, music, and we had support from the group companies as well in MTV and Colors Hindi. Massive print advertising in terms of full page ads, half page ads, quarter page ads. Outdoor advertising for 10 days across Maharashtra, and obviously 7-day radio promotion. We have a very cool jingle. I don't have it with me right now, which is the two-man song. If you get a chance, do try and listen to it, and that's something that we played. A lot of requests for those in terms of caller tunes as well. Again, when we look at PR, which is typically your paid form of publicity, sorry, a free form of publicity, pardon me for that. There is not one peg which we can carry across different news breaks, and typically there's a strategy when it comes to PR with different news pegs broken at different point in time. I will read this since this is again regional language. So we had an innovation that we had done which was called a two-man DJ night, which is covered in this presentation later. So there is coverage of that two-man DJ nights. Kangana Ranaut was on the show to promote Rangoon. So there was a news peg which went out which said that there was a Bollywood star. And there is a general performance-based thing in the center which says Tumatcha Mansavar Palak Berad Ani Tanvir Shekhcha Zalwa. And there is another story about the judges. Soumya has another question in the meanwhile, which is also, is any highly viewed show selected to play promos? Yes, Soumya, you're right. There are certain shows where we make sure that we play a promo. So, like we said, so ATL is one of the key mediums to sort of reach to the viewers, but today it's become more personalized. it's become more experiential, and that's the reason why we launched a very strong BTL campaign for the show. As a matter of fact, the show is still on air, so this is a live example. Typically, what we've done is we've done jatras and we've done cantors. Now, what are jatras? Jatras are very rural fun fairs, so to say. If you can see the picture on the top where you see the Ferris wheel. This essentially is linked to anything which is religious, could be related to a temple or an urs, and it's a 10 to 15 day activity that happens, where you have about anywhere in the range of about 3 to 50, 3 lakhs to 5 lakhs to 50 lakh people attending these jatras across the duration of it cumulatively, or on the main day of the jatra, even on a single day. With regards to a canter is nothing but a moving van which stops at different places and essentially shows content and gives an engagement option to the people who come in there. I'll quickly take you through the pictures again. So this is a jatra. This was a jatra in an area called Parbhani in Maharashtra. It's in the interiors. This is a town where we did this jatra, and we had our 2 mad contestants go and perform live there. Now these, again, like I said, are media shy places, so there are not a lot of celebrities who visit these places, and hence there is a lot of craze. How this helps the channel is that it helps us promote our shows right into the heartland of Maharashtra, especially for something like a reality show where it is very contestant driven. You really need to build a contestant more than anything else, because when it comes down to votes, when it comes down to building an affinity towards a particular participant, public interactions and taking them closer to the viewer is important. So as you can see, there's a huge crowd here. It's not the only thing that happens here. There are also funfair. There are games for the people who come in. There's a lucky draw that happens. So there is a gratification and there is an equal chance for everyone to win something when they come in to watch a Colors Marathi section within the jatra. Typically what we give away here is something like a gold nut, which is something that is worn on the nose. It's very symbolic and something that is very dear to a Maharashtrian woman. So this is what we do at the jatras. How this is done is typically we identify the artists who are going to be traveling. There is a pre-promotion in the radius of where the jatra is, and we let people know that we do door knocks, we do a bhopu activity, and we let people know that XYZ artist from Colors Marathi is going to visit the jatra on so-and-so date at so-and-so time. Essentially driving in traffic and footfalls to the jatra. We also tell them that there are opportunities to win prizes by just coming for these Colors Marathi activities. And the giveaways are very simple. There could be pens, there could be keychains, there could be the mega gift like the nut. And all of this happens very easily, because all you need to do is fill in a leaflet which is given to you, drop it in at the entrance, and then there's a lucky draw that is given. Coming to the 2 mad canter. So we basically have 2 canters. Like I said, the vans. This is how the van looks. It opens up. So these are running across 60 towns across Maharashtra as we speak. They target about 3 to 4 areas every single day. And as you can see in the picture below, the center picture below, this was flagged off on television. What I mean by that is, before the van actually set off from Mumbai, we integrated this onto the show, and that's where the cross promotion between marketing and content is leading the way in terms of television channel these days. So what happened was the 3 judges and the anchor launched this van, which got carried on air in one of the episodes, and with the message that this 2 mad van is coming to your town and it's your chance to win something. And basically what we do here is we have a dance floor on this van, and once people register in that particular city, if they want to participate in a dance competition, they come on board on this canter, they perform, and they win a trophy which has been signed by the 3 judges. So that works as a huge gratification for people in the interiors of Maharashtra. Soumya, I'm exactly coming to the next point. Promoting college fest could have been an effective option. Well, that's the next thing that we did, which was a brand extension. So we created a separate brand which is called the 2 Mad DJ Nights. This was an exclusive offering for college students across Mumbai and Pune. We had about 1,000 to 1,500 students. we did this on a pilot basis in just 2 cities right now, and probably with the exams coming up, it becomes a little difficult to extend this further to other cities. This is going to be, however, a property which is going to be built year on year from now, which is going to be called the Two-Man DJ Nights. So we basically reached out to about 6 colleges in Mumbai and 6 colleges in Pune, and we did a pre-promotion activity across these colleges. These are typically colleges which have a higher population of Marathi students, which is why we went into these colleges. The youth today can be reached out through multiple ways, but one of the best ways to sort of reach out to them is not by just having your leaflets and your posters, but to create a setting which takes their attention and grabs the eyeball. So, knowing that youth have a passion for bikes, we did a biker brigade, which was followed by a dhol, tasha, and patak. So, essentially, what happened is, you suddenly grab a lot of attention outside the college gate, inside the college campus, and you give out free passes for the students. There is no charge to attend this evening to this event, and the sort of response we had has been phenomenal. We've had 1,000+ people coming into each of these events. As you can see from the pictures, there is engagement there as well. Amruta visited some of these events to promote the show, and it's just been a very, very successful model for us to take forward ahead. Going forward, there are opportunities to monetize these kind of events, because for brands that want to reach the youth, partnering with Colors Marathi on this sort of a property is extremely effective. So let's look at brand and from the social media point of view. So typically Facebook continues to dominate social media for brands like us. While B2B marketers prefer LinkedIn, B2C, that is business to communication, pretty much stays with Facebook. Snapchat is something which has recently started growing. Though there's not so much traction on it, it's just slowly catching up with people, especially considering that the way the television ratings are, there's a large part of the population which is in the rural areas, which contributes to the viewer ratings. It is something that we are slowly building on. Video marketing efforts is something that's gone up, but the verdict on it is not yet out. Simply because sometimes videos on Facebook do not get the kind of traction that they need. So probably your YouTube or the apps, home channels are more effective. Going live is something which is pretty much in vogue right now. Also with boomerangs, which pretty much have a lot of virality. The flip bottle challenge is another thing that's really taken the social media by storm. So these are some of the things that are taking trends right now. So what really did we do in context of Two-Mad on this particular property? Again, like I said, IMC is not about having one communication thought carried across all mediums. It's about having multiple communication thoughts on multiple mediums. So if you look at it here, you have different angles of it. One is with the judges, one is with Kangana, one is with the contestants themselves. There is a Facebook Live with Amruta below in the red dress. Then there is one which is only with the anchor. And something that we do well right now, when we're the first Marathi GEC to do that, is do a live voting, which is asking our Facebook base what is the favorite look of Amruta that they like. As you can see on the top right there. It gives me great pride to say that we are the #1 channel when it comes to social media in terms of Facebook. We have the maximum number of likes, and we have a huge base of close to 22 lakh fans. So that's a really huge base for us. And this is the kind of stuff that we do. That's not it. Even on Insta, we've done multiple kind of things. So right from the contestants to the reveal of the judge, to the pairs of the contestants that will be performing. And we also carry some of our BTL activations that happen on Insta. So before I sign off, I just want to show you all a couple of more videos actually. This is the future of content.
crime that challenge the audience should experience horror as never before. The idea? The first interactive horror movie in theaters. In regular horror movies, the viewer's role is always the same. With 13th Street, the horror film becomes an interactive thrill. The viewers play their own part and are able to communicate with the protagonist. We developed a software that allows for such a dialogue via voice recognition. A flyer invites viewers to send their phone numbers to a speed dial database. The software selects an audience member and phones him or her. Then, through voice recognition, a dialogue between viewer and protagonist takes place.
Hallo? Hallo! Du musst mir helfen. Ich weiß nicht, wo ich hier bin. Bleib dran, ja? Ja. Okay.
The answers are converted into commands, and the software plays out the corresponding scene. Because of this, each caller creates a different film. Not only do the viewers hear the protagonist's voice on the phone, they experience her steps, her breathing, her entire figure up close and parallel with the film.
Links oder rechts?
Links.
Soll ich rauf oder runter?
Runter.
Hör zu. Da unten ist jemand.
Dann geh hoch.
Okay. Was soll ich tun? Soll ich helfen oder weiter?
Weiter!
Helfen!
Geh weiter.
Jetzt bist du dran. Ich hab ja deine Nummer.
Scheiße. Wir brauchen ein neues Handy.
The film hit its target audience exactly. Film lovers at cinemas and festivals. Last Call captured absolute attention, aroused enthusiasm, and effectively demonstrated the standards of 13th Street.
I hope you guys like that one. Again, the point here is these kind of videos basically drive home the content point straight away. It's the way content is being marketed these days. It's very experiential. You could run 1,000 ads, you could burn a lot of money, but it's just lost in all the advertising that a viewer is exposed to. And this is the kind of stuff that's happening across the world, and it's slowly and steadily coming into India as well. I'm just going to take you all through another video quickly. This is more from the marketing point of view. So this is the future of marketing, and how that's going to happen is we will be shortly illustrated through this one. So this was a very simple way of executing thought that Coke carries these days, which is open happiness. And I just imagine if something like this happened to you, wouldn't you be taken by surprise? So that's how powerful a thought can be in marketing, and that's how people are really communicating what the brand is all. Well, with that, I come to the end of my session. Thanks. I'm going to be open to your questions right now. Thanks for giving me a patient hearing. Sorry about being a little express, but it takes a little while to not hear your audience and only see them typing. So I'm sorry about that. And I have a question here, which says that content becoming a blind spot. So actually, it's not content that I meant becoming a blind spot. I meant it is your promos which are a blind spot. The day your content becomes a blind spot, your show will stop rating. But if your promo becomes a blind spot, what is the ideal days after campaign become blind spot in TV advertising? So essentially, you launch you break your promo about 4 to 5 weeks before launch, and you let it be stable. You reduce the frequency of the promos for about 3 or 4 weeks after launch. That's when the show typically needs support. You typically get into your episodic promos. That's the answer to the question you asked, Manjeet. Any more questions? Rakesh, you had asked the question about newer shows. You want to know about Dil Dosti Dobara, so if you could just specify what exactly you want to ask me on that. What exactly you want to know about Dil Dosti Dobara? Are you wanting to know what is the age group that it will target? Well, largely Dil Dosti Dobara targets the age group of anywhere between 12 to 24, 25. Obviously, across section, which is the core audience of the channel Zee Marathi, would also view that. Considering the time slot 10:30, it's largely an urban skewed show, which is why the settings of the show are the way it is. And that's essentially because generally people go off to sleep in the rural areas after 9:30. So if you look at the bell curve of the people available at different time slots, typically after 9:30, more after 9:30 is when people in rural areas switch off, which is why shows at about 10:30 are largely urban driven. So Rakesh, to answer your question, if you look at the kind of shows Zee Marathi had launched at 10:30, before this it was 100 Days, and before that it was the horror show. It is largely very, very urban driven shows. To tell you the minimum age group was 30-35, I'm saying that this is the core audience of any given GEC. However, there are niche audiences that are catered to. Something like a 10:30 slot is also to bring younger audiences, as you have to keep in mind about 43% of your audience base lies between 12 and 29, and there has to be some sort of content for them so that they do not move on to the youth channels, and that's part of a channel strategy where you can give a slot into developing fresher TGs for yourself. It varies from channel to channel, but generally one slot or so which is targeted at the youth is something that channels look at doing. Any more questions, guys? Another question, how do you target what all ads to be shown in which kind of shows? Well, when we run our promos, we look at the viewership of certain kind of shows, and shows which are already existing and rating at an X threshold, we try and push the shows more in the promos in that particular show, which I've already answered earlier. If there are shows that are not really rating that well, then we do not play the frequency. But considering that when there is a launch, we generally hammer the promos of the show which is to be launched. It typically runs across, but the frequency of the promo in a particular show might be lower. Another question for the younger audience: do you run email campaigns, as the kids these days are very tech savvy? Well, we do not run email campaigns. We largely try and reach them through social media, but not necessarily through emails. There is no ideal frequency. Like I said, it's about 30 to 40 promos a day. It's very difficult to tell you what's an ideal frequency, because the threshold of each channel is different, and in case you feel that the threshold of your particular channel is not great, then it makes sense that you probably run the promo for more than 5 or 6 weeks. Are you referring to an average frequency of the viewer? Then typically it comes up to about 3 or 4 times. Those are thrown up by a software. It's very difficult to calculate and tell you how it works. What typically happens is your promos, there is a log file which is available in the system, depending on the number of promos you're willing to run. When you input that data, it throws you an average frequency that is per viewer. It's typically anywhere between 3 to 4 depending on the kind of monies you're putting in. Any more questions? How do you conduct the market intelligence which was reflected in the initial slides? Well, there are 2 ways of doing that. Typically, you get your television viewings, ratings which come out every Thursday. So that throws up the numbers for you, which is the basis of which that happens. There are also industry reports which help you formulate your strategy. Typically, most channels, in order to get a qualitative aspect of what the viewer really wants to watch, look to do commission qualitative research. So that's the kind of thing that happens in terms of your in terms of the market intelligence. You can do a brand track, you can do a content testing. There are multiple ways that you can really identify what a viewer wants. When you want to launch a show, one of the things you could do is do a content testing, which lets you, where you give a brief narrative of the show you're going to launch, and you see the reactions that come from the people, basis which you can make suitable changes in your content and your tracks. When it comes to your brand, depending on the life of the brand, you could do a brand study which will tell you how the brand is personified, the loyalty, and you could do this as a track. So you could do about 4 tracks in a year that will help you evaluate how your brand is moved over each of the tracks. It will also map it, depending on what content you were running at that point in time, how the brand track has actually changed. There's another question which says, majorly secondary data plays a vital role, or primary research is also there. So like I said, so it's both actually. The primary research in terms of for us is largely comes through BARC, but the secondary research in terms of research reports or for that matter qualitative primary research is also available. Any more questions, guys? I don't want to hold you all up on a Friday night. Rohit says it's sadly a long Friday night in the office. Hard luck, mate. I can just hope you get out of work soon. Sorry? I answered that. Guys, anything more, or can I sign off? There is someone typing. Cool. So what I'm going to do is, if you want me to address any more queries, I'm going to give you all my mail ID. You can probably write that down. It is sainath.pai@viacom1818.com. I'm just going to type it out in this box. you can shoot your queries here, and I'll take them for you. Let you guys just leave for the Friday night. Thanks, guys. You guys can also connect on LinkedIn if you all wish. Good night. Bye.